Hey, and welcome to my Shinkyu showcase. Here I'm gonna showcase how I utilize him in the team and with my playstyle. I utilize him as a complete support DPS, so you won't see him on the field as much. But despite that, he will be attacking all the time. And later on I'm gonna share some tips and guides based on experiences while playing with him. So without further ado, enjoy the showcase.
Drowning my head, I'm losing the memory. And if you could know, yeah, if I could show you, I don't wanna keep on living this life so useless.
Unknown Brain, Marvin Divine, and we back.
Can't nobody tell me nothing. Made it through the wind and rain, I turned nothing into something. No more dealing with their assumptions, cause I do what I gotta do and I know, can't nobody do it like me. All they do is judge me for who I might be. Maybe if they took some time to pick my mind to see that I'm cooler than lemons and iced tea. All I wanna do is end it up with the homies. Everybody really talking as if they know me, but I guess I gotta face it. I'm so tired of being faceless.
I don't wanna keep on wasting life. Drowning in my head, I'm losing the memory. And if you could know, yeah, if I could show you, I don't wanna keep on living this life so faceless.
So faceless.
Alright, so I want to go over how I keep the uptime on his ultimate. The base cooldown of his ultimate is 20 seconds, so I want to make sure I can ult every 20 seconds. However, because I have Chongyun's second constellation, when I use Shinkyu's ult inside Chongyun's circle, the cooldown of his ult is now 17 seconds. And after I ult, I use his E once. And thanks to his fourth constellation, his E is stronger when under his ultimate. And every time his ultimate hits enemies, he regenerates energy. Soon we're gonna take a look at when the ultimate finishes its cooldown and how much of its ultimate I filled up. As you can see, I had enough energy recharge to make sure his ultimate was filled up by the time the cooldown finished. And this was using a Skyward Blade, which currently has 55% energy recharge on it. However, if you either don't have the Skyward Blade, or are struggling with energy recharge, the Sacrificial Sword will do the job for you. Here you can see me ult and use Sacrificial Sword to use his E twice. And by doing so, I actually fill his ultimate fully right after casting both of them. So in my current build, it's really overkill, which means I can get rid of some energy recharge for some more damage if I wanted to. Notice I've been pairing him with Chongyun, and it's because I think they work really well together. By using Shinkyu's ult with Chongyun's cryo normal attacks, I can keep freezing enemies non-stop, which I then shatter them because Chongyun is a claymore user. And I love that I can use Shinkyu's ult to attack faraway enemies, especially if they're on high locations. You don't have to worry about using a fast character to use his ultimate. The ultimate shoots out at specific intervals, so whether or not you use a fast character like Fei-Ching or a slow character like Noelle, it shoots at the same speed.
Paradise within your heart. You can find what I
You want to be careful about casting his E. If you're procced by Cryo and cast his E, you're gonna freeze yourself. Places like Spiral Abyss floor 12 or specific domains might freeze you a lot, so just be careful on those locations. I also wouldn't worry about elemental reactions with him. Because his ult shoots at specific intervals, and because there's so many elements flying across the screen, you're not going to be able to choose which element reacts with what status. So I built him completely as a support. I gave him some crit rate and crit damage, but my main priority was energy recharge. And of course I use a Hydro Damage Cup. My weapon of choice would be a sword with energy recharge, and I have a Skyward Blade, so I use that. My second best choice would be the Sacrificial Sword, because it can charge up his ultimate better than all the other weapons out there.
What is wrong? What is my problem? How can I get out of this world that I created? Fighting the storms in my head.
I use a 4-piece Noblesse set on him, so that way his ultimate is stronger, and every time he uses his ult, my entire party gets an attack buff. I'm using an energy recharge timepiece because I'm using the Skyward Blade, but if I was using the Sacrificial Sword instead, then I would go with an attack timepiece because that thing fills up my energy so much. If you have enough crit rate, then you can go with crit damage instead, but since I don't, I use a crit rate headpiece instead. I have him at Constellation 6 right now, and I think his constellations are amazing. The second constellation reduces enemies' Hydro resistance, which makes his ult stronger. And the fourth constellation makes his E do more damage when you're under his ultimate. And his last constellation makes his ultimate hit 5 swords every 3 hits. And then with his first constellation, it makes him a little more tanky, because you're able to have 4 swords floating around you. Thanks to his constellations, I'm able to have his E and his Q at level 9, and that's the max I can go, because I usually leave my supports at phase 4. The amazing thing about his E is that it provides healing, damage reduction, and knockback resist. And by having his Constellation 1, you can reach the cap of his damage reduction easily. It's weird that the info says the maximum damage reduction is 24%, but when I look at the skill attributes, it says that the damage reduction I can get is 28. But it's such a small difference, I don't really care too much.
I'm drowning in my head, I'm losing the mind. And if you could know, yeah, if I could show you, I don't wanna keep on living this life so faceless.
Alright, so that's all for my showcase, and see you in the next video.
So faceless.